It was happening, friends. There was breaking news today in the whole NAR commission lawsuit drama series that has been going on. And the breaking news today was that the National Association of Realtors did propose a settlement to settle this lawsuit. And they're agreeing to basically five big things. And so I'm going to talk about those five things and really focus in on two of them to give you an idea of what does that mean for you, the consumer, and then agents on both sides, the buy side and the sell side. So the big headlines, the five things that the National Association of Realtors is agreeing to is one, obviously they want a release of liability for themselves and any brokerage under $2 billion in production. So the large brokerages are not covered by this, and we'll have to deal with this separately. That's something that you don't really have to worry about and will continue to play out in the court system. The second one is that compensation for buyers agents will be moved off of the MLS. So the advertisement of a buyer's agent commission will no longer show up on the MLS, and we'll talk more about that and the implications of that in a second. The third one is that written agreements for buyers who are working with an agent participating in an MLS will be required. And that is something that we've already seen coming and we've already talked about, but I'll give you some more details on what that means if you're a consumer or an agent here in a second. Number four, they are agreeing to pay $418 billion in the settlement, which is substantially less, like 10% of what the original settlement or the original verdict dictated. And so obviously would save them a lot of money. How they pay for that, I don't know, above my pay grade. That'll play out in the future also. And then obviously at the end, they are saying that they are admitting no wrongdoing in any of this settlement, that they NAR and the National Association of Realtors continues to contend they did not do anything wrong. So what I want to focus in on here is the second and third points that I made. And the first one is compensation in moved off the MLS. And actually, before we get to that, I wanted to show you these are the kinds of headlines that we're seeing. And this is why it's important to kind of dig into this, read into it. Hopefully, this video can help you understand kind of what's going on. But we see these sensational headlines that the 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone after Realtors Association agrees to seismic settlement. That is absolutely not the case. And maybe it's just clickbait from CNN to get people to click on this story and read it. But the reality is, based on this settlement, nowhere in the settlement does it say anything about that or imply that for some reason the commission to sell a home is going to go away. So what I wanted to focus in on first is the compensation being moved off the MLS. This has kind of already happened based on the initial verdict where they stopped requiring that buyer compensation be part of a required field in the MLS, and you could offer zero if you wanted to. And so this is basically just saying that they're going to take it completely off. There will be nothing in the MLS that says anything about a buyer's agent commission. It does not in any way, shape, or form prohibit sellers from offering a buyer's agent commission. So it just won't be advertised. And it's something functionally that buyers and seller brokerages are going to have to negotiate in between themselves. And a seller's agent is going to have to negotiate with a seller and see if they want to offer some type of compensation. They can. And then they're going to have to communicate that directly to a buyer's brokerage. It's just not going to be public on the MLS as to what the compensation rate is that is being offered. I've gone back and talked about this before, that this is something that agents, good agents, educated agents are going to have a hard conversation with their sellers on. Is if sellers do not want to offer a buyer's agent commission, it does two things essentially that you're going to have to be prepared for and prepared to deal with the consequences. And the first one is your house is going to cost more than other houses that are offering a buyer's agent commission. So if you're in a market where your home is 800,000 and there are two other homes in your street and they're listed for a similar price and you don't offer a buyer agent commission, then your house essentially costs 3% more, potentially $24,000 more than a similar home, your competition essentially on the same street. And that's something that you're going to have to account for in the pricing of your home. Is it may not save you money because people may go and purchase a different home because your home is overpriced due to them having to come out of pocket to pay their buyer agent commission. So it's something that a seller is going to have to weigh and negotiate in terms of how they price their property and how they feel like it's going to affect the sale of their property. And then the other less talked about, but I think more important consideration for sellers when it comes to offering a buyer agent commission is when we take a listing and we talk to a seller and we tell them we're going to do professional photography and staging and we're going to do videos and we're going to do all of this marketing, we're going to do all of these things that you're hiring us to do when you pay us a commission. One of the biggest things that we do to market your property is to offer a buyer's agent to bring their buyers to your property and try and sell it. And so it is a huge part of the marketing budget for a listing agent to be able to offer some type of compensation to a buyer's agent, because that's what's going to incentivize those buyer's agents to put that house on their social media, send it out to their email database, bring their ready, willing, and able buyers to the home, and get that seller the highest and best terms for their property. And so if you deprive a listing agent of the ability to offer that compensation, it's really going to hurt their ability to market it. And it can overall have a big effect on what your overall net profit is on the sale of the home. And it could very well net you less because you didn't expose the property to the vast majority of the market who would potentially want to see it. So that's something on the sell side that you really got to consider in terms of compensation. But the short story here is it does not change the way that the industry currently works. It's just going to change technically how you advertise it or how you communicate if a buyer's agent commission is available or not. So it is not at all getting rid of the commission. And I always go back to, if you're a consumer and you don't want to pay commissions to sell your home, you have always had the opportunity to do it for sale by owner. You have always had the opportunity to be unrepresented in that process. The vast majority of people just choose to have representation because it is a highly complicated, complex process that has really large financial implications if you mess it up and you do it wrong. I can tell you from personal experience, I have plenty of times in my career had family members who are just selling in between family members who will hire us and pay us a commission to facilitate that transaction because they just don't want to have to deal with all of the paperwork processes, inspections, all of the title reviews, all of the things that we do in the real estate industry may seem unimportant in the normal course of business. But if you look behind the scenes and you really dig deep into all the things that got to happen and you try and do it yourself, a lot of times it's not desirable. And there's just too much liability when people try and take on that whole entire operation by themselves. So that's the first thing we're talking about, compensation. The second one is written agreements for buyers. This has already been a best practice for a long time in our industry. It's not a big change. In many states, it's required. In many states, it's not. And so this would just require that going forward, all states require that if you are a buyer working with an agent who is participating in that MLS, that you have to sign a buyer's representation agreement to work with that agent. This is actually a good thing. This protects both the consumer and the brokerage to make sure that you have a written agreement that is very clear and transparent about what each party's roles and responsibilities are, and that there's a clear discussion about compensation up front. So a buyer understands that if they do work with you as an agent, that they are going to owe some type of compensation. In the vast majority of cases, it's going to be paid for by the seller, because I believe going forward, sellers will continue to offer compensation to incentivize the sale of their property. But it's something that so the consumer's biggest takeaway here is you are going to have to take more seriously how you evaluate which agent you choose to work with. Agents, on the flip side, are going to have to do a better job of communicating exactly what their value proposition is, right? So that's the biggest thing here, is that if you're going to enter into a written agreement, which you already do on the sell side, on the listing side, you never put your property up for sale until you sign an exclusive right to sell listing agreement with a brokerage. So we do it 50% of the time on all of our business on the listing side. We just don't do it consistently on the buy side. And this is going to change that, where you have to consistently have a document signed that is going to clearly establish an agency relationship between the client and the brokerage. And going forward, there's some clear understanding of what each other's roles and responsibilities are. So this is probably a good change for the industry. But as a consumer, just be aware that you want to very much evaluate the value, the skill, expertise of your agent, because you will be bound by a contract to work with them. And you can't just go shop around to whoever you want, or you will owe a commission to who you signed the contract with. And so I'll have more information on that coming out. But I think that is something that we've already earlier this year started training heavily on in our operation, so agents understand how to have this conversation, how to have, how to transmit their value, how to be very clear to their clients that this is an important part of the business, and it's just the right thing to do is to have that transparent conversation up front on what our relationship is going to be and what my responsibilities are and what your responsibilities are. So that's the kind of big overview on what's going on in the breaking news of this whole entire um, drama, of this whole episode of the NAR lawsuit. It's probably years in the making, months or years in the making to completely be um, resolved. But this is a big step in. Um, I don't know if it's the right or wrong direction. I'm not going to comment on that, but it's a step towards some type of resolution. And it's very interesting that after many of the large brokerages have settled, NAR is following suit and coming up with a lot of money. I don't know if that money's probably going to come from agent pockets, but coming up with a lot of money to settle this lawsuit. So as always, if you have any questions, you can always reach out. Doesn't matter what market you're in. If you want some advice on what kind of questions to ask your agent to evaluate if they are the right agent for you and they have the right expertise, I'm happy to advise you on that. Or anything. That's one of the things that we do here on our team and our operation is I work very hard to ensure that all of the agents on our team are very well trained in all of the different aspects of real estate. And if they're not at the point where they have the experience, they have a mentor that works with them closely. We have a team of brokers that work with them closely. So they are providing that high level of service and value to their clients because if your clients are going to pay for something, they should be in a high level of service. And we focus heavily on that. And so if you have any feedback on that, I'm always happy to hear it. I'm always the first guy if someone is not being served at a high value that I want to hear about it so we can fix it. But very interesting new development in the whole saga of the NAR commission lawsuit. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. You can email me at dylan@buybigisland.com, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And I'll keep you guys updated on the next evolution of this whenever that comes. Thanks for watching.